Dark Pixel Podcast. My name is Mike.
I'm Landon.
I'm Kason.
Today we're going to talk about Breath of the Wild DLC details. There's a new update and a bunch of new DLC. Masks and costumes and hard mode and a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
That's available. When is it available?
Oh gosh, did they
summer.
say? It's the summer one.
Sometime this summer. But the update's now.
They said what it was, but they haven't said exactly when it'll come out.
It's coming soon. Then we're going to talk about Mario Kart 8, which is the fastest selling Mario Kart to date. Mario 8 Deluxe, I should say. The new Switch version.
The Switch version. So yeah, Nintendo, a lot of Nintendo stuff today because they had their what do you call it, investors meeting just a few days ago.
Quarterly, whatever.
Yeah. Info dump.
Yeah.
Then we got some great questions from you guys. Seed Barrett was wanting to know what we think about the Mass Effect 2 ending, and basically the question is centered around, like, should you accept consequences for certain decisions or replay them to get your desired response or your desired ending or whatever. Jarvis Mott asked, who's an NPC in any game you wish was playable? Jermaine says, do you guys like playing several games at a time or playing like one game at a time sort of thing? And then Big Cow Productions, have you had a time where you played a game or saw a movie, read a book you initially hated, but you came back to it later and enjoyed it for the same reasons that you initially disliked it?
Oh, so a little flavor to that question. Because we've had that question before, but not quite like that.
Yeah. I'm just starting to get the B-sides of all the questions.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. Breath of the Wild stuff coming out.
Oh, hold on, guys! Before we start, apparently this is our 1 year
52
anniversary, basically.
Episode
52. So it's been going for a year.
Yeah.
We're still around. You're still asking questions.
We're still
Freaking
casting.
Awesome. We're pumped about it.
Yeah.
We've done a podcast once a week for a whole year.
For a whole year.
That's crazy.
Thanks
Pretty
to
cool
you guys
accomplishment.
for listening.
Let's find out if we can do it for 2 years.
2 years. 2 years starting.
Starting now. Okay, here we go. Breath of the Wild DLC details. So let's talk about the update first. That's available right now,
yes,
right?
the update available now.
It's on there.
And freaking what I have been waiting for this whole time. It's a shame that it didn't come out day one because I've already played the game. The experience is already there.
You beat it. Yeah.
I've not yet beaten it, but I've got all the memories and I've, done everything, but I've got 111 shrines. I need the final 9. It's getting really hard to find those last 9 shrines. I basically have turned back on the shrine beeper, and I'm just like combing the whole map, just waiting to see. Anyways, but yeah, it's unfortunate because the first time you play is so important, and I could have had a better experience that first time. I'll go back and rewatch the memories and maybe go a few places, but it's unfortunate that I had to deal with the English voice acting first. But we'll see if the Japanese voice acting is really as much better as I think it's going to be.
From the little bits I've heard, I think it sounded a little more convincing.
Exactly, me too.
But I have to say, dude, so far, my least favorite freaking voice in Breath of the Wild is the Deku Tree. I think it was just garbage. Absolute trash. Trash. Like where I'm getting angry as I'm hearing him talking. Like,
so many times throughout the game that happened. But yeah, English text with Japanese voices. That's
you
what
can
I've
do
been
it
wanting.
before. You just had to play the whole game in Japanese.
Exactly.
So Japanese dialogue.
And if you can't read Japanese very well, that's not exactly going to work.
Right.
Apparently, other languages like Spanish speaking and a bunch of others were pretty good too. People were pretty happy with it there. I think it's mostly, as far as I've seen, I mean, maybe you guys can let me know what your experiences have been, but for the most part what I've seen is people are a little bit more critical of the English, particularly the English voice actors.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be nice to be able to go back through with the Japanese and just see how it's different.
Totally.
I think I've already.
It's an easy setting. It's just right there in the main title. It's not like you have to do something crazy.
Easy to turn it off.
Just in the options.
Yeah.
Flip it on.
So that's great. It's
that's
great.
awesome, and you can do that right freaking now.
Great to have the option.
Yeah.
And I've already spoken about my dislike of the voice acting in English before.
Yeah, so have I.
So have I.
So
we all have.
So,
unfortunate.
anyways, that's good. That's good. But the DLC that'll be coming over the summer.
Yeah.
One of them that I was really interested in was a Korok mask. Because I had no interest in just
the cosmetic.
Well, no, just in trying to brute force find all those Koroks. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to go through just like trying to find all these
Apparently,
things.
some people have done it, but
some people don't. You know what's crazy? You don't need all the Koroks to get all the upgrades.
Really?
You don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to me, I would just get enough Koroks to have my upgrades and then be like, all right. I mean, with the mask, maybe I would go for all of them. But it's just, I thought it was interesting. It was like, I always thought that you would need all of them to unlock all of them.
Yeah, to get every slot, huh?
You don't.
I think that I found some really low number, like maybe 20 or 30 of them or something.
Koroks?
Yeah.
Really?
Dang, dude.
And so a lot of that's because I fast travel to the place I want to be and then just go straight to the place I want to go to.
Huh.
Rather than doing a lot of
I've found like
traveling
250.
But, yeah, just like I would, the ones that I find most often are the ones you got to put the apple into the thing so that you can get them to appear, or where they have like the circle of rocks and you go like
you put a rock
one rock down, or they're just running around in the grass or in the water or whatever. You go go grab them. Aside from that, like I know there are several where you have to like fly through a hoop or something.
Yeah.
Those race ones.
I didn't encounter that many of them naturally just through the way I played. So this is cool because it's like, I don't know how it's going to work exactly, but the idea is
it'll shake. From what I understand, it'll like rattle. The mask will do the Korok
and it'll
kind of thing when you get close.
So you'll know you're close to one. So that's nice. That's nice. So I'll probably put that to use and actually get some more weapons.
On top of that, there's Majora's mask. There's a Midna headgear.
Yeah, the Midna one.
There's a Tingle outfit. There's Phantom. Looks like Phantom Ganon armor. A few crazy things like that, and it's not all fleshed out what that's going to do. But some of that sounds like it's going to be hidden in these treasure chests that they're going to be adding to the game. Some of those treasure chests are going to be in the sky, floating on platforms with giant octo balloons,
and protected by enemies and all that stuff.
So, which is pretty cool because I actually already think this game does an amazing job of using vertical space. Not a lot of games do. Skyrim, for example. You could fly on a dragon after a while, but that kind of was a little, I don't know. It wasn't really
I don't actually remember flying on a dragon at all, except for that one
it was like
where you travel to the other
that's
the new map.
Yeah.
That's all I remember.
But otherwise it was... So this game does a great job of using that vertical space. And I think that should make things even more interesting. There's a dude flying in the sky above you.
I wonder if it would be too easy for you to just be able to shoot the balloons and get it
and pop them and have them come down.
Or do they want you to get there up in the air?
Have you noticed trying to shoot crap that's really high up is really hard to do?
It's really hard.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting mechanic for Breath of the Wild is the way gravity affects the arrows over space. So they start falling.
Reinforces the whole physics theme the whole game has. Yeah. Everything follows the laws of physics.
So in addition to that stuff, they've detailed what the hard mode is like going to be for the most part. It's going to involve, like, because we were wondering, like, what's the hard mode for this game? It's already just kind of a survival, you get items, your weapons already break pretty quickly. Like, how are they going to do that? And it seems like they're just going to kind of take what enemies would normally appear and just give a harder version of that enemy. Like how the blue bokoblins are slightly harder than the red bokoblins, and then the black ones and then the white ones are, like, the hardest. But apparently... in place of where the white ones already are in the game, there's going to be a new difficulty of
class.
And then the red base ones we haven't seen before. They would become blue ones.
Yeah.
And blue ones.
Which makes me wonder, will there be any red ones in the hard mode? Or will they just be eradicated?
I feel like there should still be red ones. They're harder.
Just make them harder.
But like, they are as if they're blue.
Yeah, exactly.
And that sounds about right. Then in that sense, we won't see any new enemies because...
And
the white ones will just be as if the ones we haven't encountered. The theoretical above that.
I feel like the game could use more flying enemy types that aren't just like keys or the Wizards.
Or like the huge cloud of like 500 keys that like
freaking keys.
Those are annoying.
You just kill like 2 of them and then they all fly away.
Yeah. But I guess that also would mean that they'll do the same thing with Lionel's
Yeah, I guess so.
You have another class of line.
So is that all there is to it then? They just scale the enemies up one slot?
No, enemies regain
there's
health
a little
gradually.
more.
Oh, they regain health.
Yeah. So any enemy that you killed by dropping 100 bombs because you didn't want to encounter them face to face, and you eventually killed them that way, that's not going to be.
That'll make
Eventide
Eventide Island so freaking hard. Mm-hmm. Holy crap! Like killing
that's
that.
Right.
Well,
the Hinox and
yeah. Jeez. Yeah. So and then enemies are harder to sneak up on.
That's right. They can hear and see better. Yeah. They'll see you further off and hear you.
That's nice.
As you're sneaking up.
So you can't just get stealth kills as easily.
Yeah.
I'm slightly bummed by what this hard mode has turned out to be.
You know, basically, I don't know how they could have done it to where I would have liked it more. I don't know exactly what they would. Maybe make less apples, make less.
Oh, that's one thing they could have done.
Less food, so it's like less hearts. Right?
Limit the amount of food you can carry.
Yeah,
that would have been a really good addition, in my opinion.
Because at the moment I have like 150 apples and like 100 meats,
and you can cook like as many different meals as you want. So, like,
there's a cap how many meals you can carry.
There is.
Yeah.
Is there? I haven't hit that.
It's like 3 pages of food.
3 pages. So it's like 75. Right?
It's quite a bit, but yeah. Because I constantly have about
interesting
2.5 pages of food.
Oh gosh, so I have like 1 page normally.
Really?
And that's only when I'm like, okay, I'm cooking tons of stamina shrooms or something like that.
I just try to keep a variety of like everything.
Yeah, that's smart. I don't do that.
Yeah, it would have been nice if like. I mean, I don't know exactly how I had to go about this, but like one type of meal, like a meal that replenishes health, a meal that replenishes stamina or boosts stamina or whatever. Like one of each kind of meal.
I think to fix that, all they would have to do is not make it Skyrim style in the way that the food heals you. Basically make it so that you eat the food and you don't instantly regain those hearts. You eat the food and it will start building back up. Because sometimes you take a hit and you know you're dead from that hit. Like, you know it. All the hearts have gone white, and you're losing that damage. And you can pause and eat, fill up those hearts again. And sometimes you'll still lose a little bit. But if they change that mechanic to be like, you eat, and then when you unpause, it's like, boop, 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 like filling up, it wouldn't be as easy to kind of game the system that way. You know what I mean? It just like, I took a big hit, pause, and just eat a crap ton of food at once and immediately be healed.
That's kind of how The Witcher does it. Where it will slowly regenerate your health rather than just immediately.
Yeah, that makes a little more. I mean, neither thing really.
I mean, eating food, giving,
but I just like it feels cheap when I'm like, oh, I'll just pause and eat all my crap
in the middle of this battle.
All the Skyrim jokes of like eating 40 cheese wheels and then fighting a dragon and then eating 40 more.
Yeah, you can brute force through anything that way. It's like
true if you have
I'm not even going to give a fetch about like blocking or dodging correctly or anything like that. I'm just going to run up there and kill him, and then I'll just eat and then just keep doing it, right?
You know what's funny is I've tried that before, and I've gone into battles with like 150 apples like we're talking, and basically eaten like every freaking one of them and been like, crap. Well, and I try to not eat some of my other foods.
You can do it, you just can't keep doing it consecutively every time.
You can make, like you're saying, 4 pages worth of meals, though.
Yeah,
and each one of those could instantly regain all your hearts.
Right, if you cook with radishes, I don't. Then it's like boom. That's like usually what I do. I'm just like one single radish is like full hearts plus a couple, yellow hearts.
The radishes are worth
and
a
you
lot.
just cook one single radish and it's like boosh, everything. But anyways, so there are ways they could have made the game harder. This one is one way, I guess. I'm probably not really gonna do it, but I'm not too interested in this DLC just in general. I'm thinking I'm going to wait to see what comes out in November.
You know what I'm the most interested in?
There's one more thing we haven't talked about.
The Hero's Path?
Yeah, that one.
The Hero's Path is really cool, because I want to see what my Hero's Path has been right now.
It's a green dotted line that traces your last 200 hours of gameplay.
Yeah.
And you can see everywhere the Link has traveled.
And you can play it over time, too, apparently. So you can watch it progress or whatever. And it'll give you stats about what areas you've spent more or less time in. Supposedly that's supposed to be helpful for finding things like Koroks or shrines or whatever.
Exactly. Because for me,
Akala a ton.
It's like, I think I'm good. Where have I not actually set foot before?
Yeah. I guess this is the map feature that everyone was speculating about a few months ago.
Oh,
everyone was thinking like maybe it's fast travel. Maybe you can't fast travel. But there is a fast travel.
Yeah.
That they kept.
That's true. There's a medallion.
Yeah.
That's basically what's it called?
Faror's Wind.
Faror's Wind. Yeah. And you put it down, and you can travel back there at any point. And my guess is you can then pick it back up and go somewhere else.
I think you can
want
move
to,
but it just can be one place.
Yeah.
They showed a screen of someone putting it right next to a pot to like cook food or whatever.
So I put it next to my house in freaking what's that place called? Hateno. Yeah. Just because the shrine is near the house, but you still got to go and cross the bridge and.
I was hoping there'd be some survivalist type stuff in this at least, like some way where you have to battle the elements more than it already exists in the game. Or like,
more rain and lightning, just all the time.
Rain and lightning the whole time.
Just permanent rain and lightning.
There you go.
But also with the what do you call it? The 45 levels. Yeah, the trial of
the hero.
The hero.
Like that.
Oh yeah,
that's
that too.
Cool. Every Zelda game kind of has that. You usually don't have to pay extra to do it, but anyways, that's a different thing right there. You go down and there's 45 levels, and the enemies start out easier, and it gets really hard. You start out with nothing. You're just like naked, right? It's kind of like that island in the south.
Pick stuff up as you
east. Go. Yeah, that's cool. Got to kind of just take enemies' weapons and do all that. But once you get through the whole thing, your Master Sword is permanently glowing. It always does 60 damage instead of 30.
That's a pretty good reward.
I think it's a great reward, actually. That's pretty. I think it'll still break,
You still have to charge it, but having it do double damage.
I think that's great. I think that's cool.
Reward.
I know when it's glowing. Does that mean you don't have to be at full hearts for it to shoot energy?
I don't think you have to be at full hearts in general. If you just hold the throw button,
I'm pretty sure it only shoots energy if you're at full hearts.
Really? I guess I'm always at full hearts. That's funny.
I don't know.
Yeah, I remember I was like, I wonder what happens if you throw it. And I tried to throw it, and you end up shooting, and I'm like, whoa, sweet. But that is cool because, in some ways it's like, okay, that makes the game way too easy. But I don't think it's going to be easy to beat those 45 levels. I think you're going to need to be pretty far in the game.
With nothing.
You've got nothing to begin with. And to really get through those 45 levels, you might need to be pretty far along in the game in the first place to be capable of doing that.
Yeah.
And so I think it still works. And by the time you're that far into the game, it's like just give them the Master Sword. Give them, they're already freaking, they know what to do. They just need to go find all 900 Koroks or something. Like you just give them whatever they need. The most powerful weapon in the game.
Dude, so. You know what they should have done with Koroks? Each Korok should tell you one sentence of a story.
Oh, jeez.
And then, you find them and you piece this whole freaking crazy, sort of like the memories, but on, a whole nother, just a written story.
It'd probably be not super interesting.
I don't know, man. I think they could, if you took freaking, the Iliad,
one sentence at a time.
They just, reciting it to you so you find one.
So I'm not crazy excited for this one. I will buy the DLC pack depending on what I hear about the November one. I would not buy it for what I've seen so far. As it stands.
The Tingle costume I'm really curious about because we know Aonuma loves Tingle. It's his favorite.
That's true. That's his favorite.
So
weird. Yeah, it says the Tingle.
I want to know what lapel. Tingle can do. I wonder if Tingle can I don't know. It would have something to do with trying to fly? I don't know.
Yeah, because he gets a balloon. He puts a balloon on himself.
Yeah. Maybe.
And you do have those little octo balloons. Maybe you can fly.
Maybe if Tingle uses an octo balloon, it becomes bigger. I don't know. It's going to be something.
Idea. Of course, that might be how you get to some of those platforms up there. You need to be Tingle and use a balloon. That is pure speculation. We have no clue how that's going to work.
Tingle does.
Tingle, dude.
These podcasts must be great to watch, half a year later.
I was actually doing that 2 nights ago, I think it was.
Did you?
I was looking at some speculation about the Switch, actually. Is it going to be this or that? And it's crazy to look at that now with it being so common knowledge. It's it feels like, how the fuck did you not know that? But
did you feel like a time traveler?
Yeah, a little bit.
You're I know how it turns out.
Yeah, we were talking about Switch stuff, and we were talking about Zelda stuff and Final Fantasy 15 stuff, and it's like, wow. you guys have no idea. You have no idea.
That's great.
Anyways, let us know what you guys think of the new DLC, if you have plans to get it, or why you're excited or not. Let us know in the comments.
$20 and it will include all of the DLC. You can only buy Season Pass, basically.
Yeah, you can't just buy a part of it.
And that's another reason why I just wait till you know what you're buying before you buy it. And until I know what all of it is, I'm just not ready to put down $20. $20 isn't that much.
And this is the one that doesn't let you buy the individual parts. You have to buy all of them.
You have to buy the whole thing. You cannot just buy one DLC. Yeah,
that is stupid.
Thanks,
Nintendo. You are stupid for that.
You're not pumped to finally be able to wear Majora's Mask in a Zelda game.
That's interesting, but it's not going to be like Majora's Mask.
Maybe, maybe a moon
will it like totally
go up to the moon?
I guess so. But Majora's Mask, I always equated it's like the One Ring in Lord of the Rings. It's like got this crazy pull, but like now all of a sudden it's like, oh, you just put it on
and just dunk.
It's like dunk,
become an evil lord.
Go
evil lord off.
Exactly. Dark so I kind of have mixed feelings about that one.
That's funny.
All right. Next topic here: Mario Kart 8, fast-selling Mario Kart ever.
And Mario Kart is one of the highest-selling franchises ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like hundreds of millions of units. So that's freaking crazy.
So
yeah,
a couple things I wanted to ask you guys about regarding this. Landon did that video where he analyzed the numbers for console releases and everything, and if they hit this amount, then that basically
like it
guaranteed a certain level of success, or not guaranteed, but at least in the past it has. Yeah. When they've reached that landmark, it meant that it would go on at least to be successful or whatever. Yeah. So. From what I remember, it was like the PlayStation 2, which was like the most successful home console of all time, had how many sales in the first year? Like 2-point-something million? Or was it... Or within this launch window, at least?
I might have... I'll have to pull that.
Anyways, from what I remember, and I could be wrong about the video you did, it seems like the Switch, and this is not to say the Switch is going to go on to sell 150 million units. I don't think it will.
Right, that's pretty crazy.
But at least from the sales numbers... up to now, it's baffled me a bit.
It's
how successful
really
the thing is.
Doing well.
Okay, I've got the numbers.
Yeah, months later, it's still hard to find one.
So in the first, by first year, we mean first 12 months. In the United States, the PlayStation 2 sold over 8 million.
Over 8 million. But the DS did 2.1.
DS did 2.1. Yeah, the PlayStation 2 is on this whole
other... It's on a whole other level, yeah.
The Game Boy Advance.
What about the Wii? What did the Wii do in its first 12?
2.3.
2.3.
But...
So yeah, that's so interesting to me because the Switch is almost there already, right?
Yeah, it's at 2.7.
But that's worldwide.
Worldwide in 2 months.
This is just US.
Oh,
yeah,
I don't know what it's sold just
I don't know how many they've sold in the US.
It's like over 1 million.
It's got to be close to 1 million or over 1 million, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay, never mind. I was thinking that this was worldwide.
I thought so too.
Yeah, this is just US.
So, anyways, but at least from how it's selling right now, and for what I would think they would project holiday after they've got, I would hope, another big batch shipment with Mario Odyssey coming out and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So I would think they're going to hit somewhere close to 2 or 3 million domestic here.
Well, so they're projecting worldwide in the first 12 months 10 million.
10 million.
So worldwide,
America, that would be probably 2 to 3 million. That's a good estimate.
That would definitely be over 2 million just in the U.S.
Yeah.
So, since this seems to be on that trajectory, I'm very surprised. I'll come out and say it. Like I've liked the idea of the Switch since they announced it. There have been some parts of it that I think are lacking. I did a whole review on it where I talked about a lot of things that I felt like it doesn't do so well.
Right.
But regardless of all of that. They're doing really well. Yeah. And Zelda...
I've heard it's pacing with the Wii.
Yeah.
In initial sales.
Zelda and Mario Kart have sold super well.
The attach rate is incredible.
Really, really high.
Zelda's the first time I've ever seen an attach rate over 100% for a console.
Yeah, which is...
psycho.
Yeah, that's...
It must be because people are buying editions that they don't want to unbox, and then they buy the one they want to play.
Which sucks, because some people didn't get to
store it and then
play the game because other people bought multiple versions.
Yeah. And what's so funny about this to me is how much this goes to show, at least in my mind, how little, like, the gaming community, us, really understand the marketing of this and, like, projecting or being able to see, like, how successful something's going to be. Because in the eyes of most gamers, I would say, me included, the launch lineup was just so unattractive aside from Zelda to me that I was like, oh, there's no way people will go out in droves to buy this. But they're not just looking at us, the hardcore people.
We may know how gamers think, but we don't know how any average consumer all over the world, you know, male, female, young, old, all the different. We don't know how they're going to respond.
4 quadrant.
Their marketing really worked.
It did,
and I thought that it was really good. Like I thought all their commercials kind of hit the right spot.
Gosh, watch the Wii U's marketing.
From
5 years ago, and compare it to the Switch. Yeah,
the Switch is
that
so
Super
much
Bowl
better.
ad.
The Switch is so much better. And it's really interesting because I mean we have even people in our Discord who were saying like still I think maybe like a month or two ago this was happening, just spelling doom for the Switch, like there's no way this thing's going to be great unless they come out with a totally awesome E3 and they launch a ton of games like as soon as possible. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. Like it needs more games for sure before it can be successful. And then we have 2 games that have just blown the thing up and
sold more than any other in the franchise. Like it's just insane. The weirdest thing is though is that those same people who are like, oh, all the Switch is getting are Wii U ports, right?
Yeah,
those won't sell. They already had a version of that game. This is one of those. True. This is, I think, the first one that we've had that's like a straight up old game being ported to the Switch, and it has sold better than any other of its kind in the first week of sales. Like, holy crap, no, I don't think anyone was predicting that was going to happen. No one knew because it's a port. Most of the Nintendo fans already have that game. And they still came out and bought this game. It's freaking madness. Nobody knew this was going to happen.
The craziest thing with all of this, and I'm reading people saying this online, that people are saying.
Thank you.
Smart, very intelligent people.
Some very smart, very well-established people.
Very intelligent are saying that... they just the more time they spend with the Switch, the more they want everything to be portable.
On the Switch.
And if it's possible to have it, because like Mario Kart 8 on Wii U, I still played. Well, not now. Like now, I've played the Switch version, but I was still playing that game. Like it had probably been 2 years of playing that, or more. I don't know, but it was still playing that up to the end of last year. It's just one of those games that you just can keep coming back to.
It's Mario Kart. There's a reason Mario Kart is like in its own. It sold more copies than Zelda or even just
it's one of their best
Mario games. Right? It has sold. Consistently sells like 15 million units.
You know, when we talk about people wanting a game, a portable version of we talk about Dark Souls a lot, or other games that are like maybe long shot possibilities, but would be cool, right? But I think at the same time, every single game Nintendo just came out with on the Wii U also apparently qualifies to a degree that people will justify and be like, holy crap, okay, yeah, sure, I can play it anywhere.
Just the one fact that it's portable, and that's it. But going on a little more than that, they will buy the game again.
So, Mike, a couple days ago, you were talking about how the first time you saw an iPhone and the guy that was showing it off and everything, and how, that moment of, oh, wow, right? That. Okay, you can pinch to zoom and all this crap and touching the screen.
It didn't matter that you could do all that on your PC back at home.
Technically,
that didn't matter.
It was, but what it had, it had that that in-person wow factor of oh dang, okay, this is cool. Different. And you only understand how different it is when you've had that hands-on kind of experience. And you're like, okay, this is not like stuff I've had before. I was thinking about this. The Switch, we talk about it being like Wii U generation graphics, right? But previously, Nintendo's handhelds have been kind of 2 generations back-ish, if not a little farther.
Right.
So, the Game Boy Advance was Super Nintendo-ish.
3DS
around the time the GameCube was out.
GameCube type,
The DS was N64 at the time of the PS3, really.
Yeah, more or less.
A little before then, but yeah.
Yeah, so they've been far enough back that it's not blown anyone's socks off. No. This, because it's kind of not really a handheld, is only 1 generation back, and it's the first time we've had a handheld that was only 1 generation back.
Right.
You could make an argument for the Vita being close.
The Vita was
about that,
but I don't know what it is, dude. It's playing it and being I was just 2 months ago I had to sit in front of my TV to play this, and now I'm playing it hanging out in bed it's propped up, and my wife and I are just doing some races online, and it's just imagining that is one thing, but once you actually do it, you're holy crap.
It's hard to go back,
It is hard.
It's hard to go back.
So, and that's so smart funny. People are saying.
Yeah, that's what people are saying.
Yeah, so
that's
kind of what I attribute some of this stuff to, because all of a sudden you want everything on it. And you don't care if it's a port. Especially an evergreen type thing like Mario Kart.
I know. Any Mario Kart will do. They're all just so fun.
Yeah.
And that's so funny because... the Vita is likely going to come out, especially now. The Vita 2.
Oh, a Vita 2.
I'd say it's like
there will be a Vita 2, and every time we talk about that, people are like, no freaking way. And it's possible it won't do well in the US. Who knows? But at this point, how could anybody say?
Why not? Sony already copies most of what Nintendo does, right? They do. It is clearly, you know, part of their strategy. Of course, they just take a whole different spin on it. But this is the new thing that Nintendo's done, and it's selling well. Like, everyone will copy it. That's what will happen.
The one thing that's kept the Vita alive in Japan, because it's still doing well in Japan, guys.
Persona 4 Gold.
Is no, like indie / third party, like indie support for the Vita is off the charts. Like, if you want to play some indie RPGs or some smaller name RPGs, the Vita is the best system to own for that right now. There's just tons of them. If you're way into those. That like niche, like Japanese market. Not a lot of those come out in English, which is rough.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
But there's a crap ton of them. They have that like out the butt, and I see those studios still wanting to develop, kind of at that price point, at that level, right? Like, not they don't need to like hire a big technical team for something like that would need to be on the PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
When the Vita 2 comes out, the Switch Mini is going to come out, and I don't know if the Vita 2 even really is going to stand much of a chance. Everyone's talking. There's like a little mock-up of what the Switch Mini will look like. It's going to happen, for sure.
Well, the Switch Mini, and then the Switch XL, and the Switch...
And then the Switch XL. I don't know.
Plus, or whatever. Yeah.
But...
Anyways, I've just been very surprised. I've been very surprised. There have been very strong sales for the Switch and the games that are available on the Switch. I'm eager to see what happens when the Splatoon 2 comes out.
Yeah.
That's going to outsell everything, at least in Japan.
In Japan, for sure.
All the lines were the longest for Splatoon. At all the events.
At all the conventions and stuff.
So it's just going to be insane.
E3 is only 1 month away, by the way.
Yeah, and they're not doing. They're going to do their same direct.
Yeah, they don't have a schedule.
Have like a stage presence
theater, stage. Yeah.
Which I'm all for. I don't understand people that prefer the stage. I've seen some people that prefer that.
It's getting pretty
weird. You prefer
weird.
the CEO to come out and then mess up his lines, and then know.
It's the what do you call it? It's the Tony Stark thing. It's the
it's Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. It's the we are arrogant and up our own butts, like fetching crazy. Come look at the greatest product you've ever seen, and that's how all the stage shows always are. And it's getting really obnoxious to me. And I love that Nintendo Directs are something completely different from that. They're not these arrogant, like, pixel counting, GPU measuring, like, here's all the greatness of it. Yeah. It's just so different. I remember seeing what
Samsung did for the S4 when that came out, and they did a big stage show. And it was just, it was so...
I hate it. I really don't like it. It's really uncomfortable.
I think the draw to it is only for people who are there.
Sure.
People who can be in the audience and
the few hundred
have it unveiled for you, like, live in the moment.
And those are typically the journalists and media that.
Although sometimes with like the Final Fantasy 15 dealio they did.
That was a big event.
Which was also about as like arrogant a show as any company could ever put on. Oh gosh, I don't know.
Yeah, I really like the direct approach though. I think that having like a really clean, to the point, like rehearsed.
Yeah,
not necessarily rehearsed, but just you take the best take.
Edited. Yeah.
that flows well.
And you can splice the video. You don't have to like. I don't know. It's just it flows better.
It's less expensive, and I think the presentation comes off more smoothly.
Like compared to the live presentation they did for the Switch. Yeah, that was a little like
because Kimishima himself was there, and he
he
just doesn't need to be on camera.
All that on stage stuff feels like most people are going to stream it, and so you might as well make something that caters to your largest.
Exactly, everyone's watching it online.
Makes a lot more sense.
So that's how E3 is going to be, but they're going to have a huge presence there, and I'm excited for
it. I mean, I know that they'll be for sure detailing a lot of the games coming out. Like, I'm very excited to learn more about Xenoblade 2. When that happens.
Which is still on track for this year. It was in their financial report.
Yeah, they were saying it's still
there were two things surprising in their financial report. Apparently, the Smash Brothers is like going to be expected within the fiscal year, but that could still be next year. That could still be 2018. But and that could also still be delayed.
Of Smash 4.
It would be a new Smash Bros. And I can't remember if this was like in the report, like specifically, or if it was like hinted at in some other way. That there's going to be...
I guess the timing would be not necessarily too far off since it came out in 2014. Smash 4 did, right?
And I think that...
See, it just feels weird because they
Mario
kept coming
Kart
out with
8
characters,
Deluxe.
so it still felt like it was a living
Yeah, it felt
up
alive.
until a year ago.
But
right?
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's success, I think, spells great things for just a straight port of Smash Brothers.
For sure.
From the Wii U.
I think they could just continue expanding that and it'd be fine.
I know. There's so many characters.
Like they could add they could
every
add an
Smash
adventure
Brothers
mode
could
to
be
it,
that
you know what I
port,
mean?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah,
No, but then
that's
people
right.
would just stream
The
it online,
3DS.
Mike. Then people would just stream it.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, somebody asked a question about that. I don't know if I put it on here. Someone was asking about how do we feel about... Anyways, I must not have put it on there. It's too bad. Could have had a great segue there. Anyways, I just feel like, again, this is coming from all the Smash and fighting game people. If you follow our channel at all, will probably just like leap on top of me for saying this. But I don't really, I guess, understand the appeal of a new Smash Brothers yet. Like with people having, you know, really, it takes years to really dig into and find out like which character. I mean, they have tier lists, but those. I think there's always somebody who emerges
for a while. Yeah,
there's somebody who emerges and like finds some exploit with a certain character.
Totally. That happened 10 years after Melee came out.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden it was
like all of a sudden Peach is a viable character, and people are, you know what I mean. So like, I mean with Melee tournaments or with Smash tournaments, it's like Melee and Brawl and Smash 4, like 3 different ones where you have to like really understand the differences if you're going to compete in the different games. You know what I mean in terms of a competitive or professional level. Like is it the right time to bring in like a new one into the mix yet, or have we not really like found everything there is to do in Smash 4? Can that be expanded a little further, balanced a little better?
Characters there are.
I know, and it's like what I agree. I agree with Mike on that one completely.
I would not.
It still has a long life.
I would not bring out a new Smash yet, personally.
Not to mention what's his name, the Smash
Sakurai.
He was kind of reluctant to make Smash for the Wii U in the first place because he wants to move on. He wants to do other things, you know. And it would be, I feel like personally, he'd be leaning towards, oh, please just port that game. I've got some other stuff I want to do with my life instead of just making Smash games forever, the same game every generation, you know.
Yeah. Anyways,
there you go.
A lot of Nintendo stuff. But there were some other, just real quick, there were a few other things that were in Square Enix's financial report. I don't know if we talked about last week.
Oh, I don't think so.
But
last week we
talking
just
about
did the interview.
Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Oh, in their financial report,
3.
There was also something about Final Fantasy VII Remake that was like they were expecting income from
within the
fiscal year,
so by March,
which still spells that it would likely come out in this holiday season, which everyone's skeptical about, but I'm holding to it. I still think
it will.
If they both, they've got to space those two out a little bit. I feel like there's a lot of overlap with the audience, and so that's just I have no idea how this crap works. Spouting off my opinion.
Yeah, I still think we can expect it before the end of the year. Personally, it's just a lot of time in between now and then. Like.
Yeah, there's still plenty of time.
Still a lot of time to get stuff done, and it's just the first episode.
Hasn't even happened yet.
I know there's a lot of content that they could cut. They got a lot of time to cut.
Totally. I mean, if there's an issue, they can.
I mean, it was announced.
Trim it up.
It was announced in E3 2015.
2015. It was announced, and it had already been in production for a couple of years at that point.
So we're 2 years from then,
and it's only the first.
It's only the first episode, and we know that they are outsourcing to several different studios to work on it. So, who knows?
I think it's very possible.
Who knows?
Of course, their games get delayed all the time. So it could be in their financial report, and then still like, oh, sorry, guys.
Yeah, that's true.
We got to delay it.
That's true. This is for the news. We got questions from people.
Seed Barrett.
He
recently finished Mass Effect 2. Says, I did it with 2 of my squad members dying.
Like the big ultimate.
The end of the game.
Yeah.
If you don't do certain things, certain characters can die. I'd really like to hear your stories about how it ended for you, and mostly, do you think that replaying the final mission in Mass Effect 2 just to make everyone survive makes sense? It's supposed to be a suicide mission, and personally to me it got very more personal when it came with a loss. Isn't it better to accept the ending that was the result of only your decisions and actions, but not 100% good?
Especially, like the true,
especially in a game that consequences are going further than just one game. I would really like you to discuss that, because I think just about that ending. All right, because I'm thinking just about that ending for the second day now. Okay, so
this goes back to something we've talked about before about like open worlds and how to fashion a linear story or a story for a non-linear game, or maybe a less linear game. Yeah. Mass Effect is still pretty linear, but you can have all these options and how that affects the story, right?
Yeah.
And how can you still have a good story when the story is variable and there's 100 different endings?
Yeah.
Like when I was playing Persona 4 Golden, I had people telling me, don't do this or do that because you want the true ending or whatever.
You want the true ending.
To me, I'm fine with getting whatever ending I got from my decisions. Like what he's saying here about losing somebody. Like that's why I replayed Mass Effect 1, because I lost somebody that I did not want to lose. So I replayed the entire game, but it's because I felt it when I lost that character, and I was like, crap. Oh, that's why, and being like, oh my gosh, but that's part of the experience for me. So I tend to be the type to just like accept it and just be like, that's what I got. Although in that case I like started over, but I don't know if he's talking about just jumping back a save to replay the mission specifically, the end of Mass Effect 2.
I think you could have a save file before you go into that last mission,
and then be like,
go finish everybody's loyalty missions, and then go back through, because it's all dependent on how much you've upgraded your ship, and then whether you've done the loyalty missions with all the characters. If you've done both of those things, everyone survives. So here's how I feel about it. First of all, it's tough when the goal as a developer is to set out to have real consequences, right, for actions. And in order to do that, you have to have choices sort of like split. And so the player's choices, but the problem is that there are just so many people who will be interested in a game, but who are not interested in the whole like role-playing aspect of accepting consequences for their mistakes, right? You see it a lot with people who play Fire Emblem as well. You have a whole crowd of people who are like, no, like when a character dies, they're dead. I'm going to accept that. You have a whole other group of people, probably a majority, who will just reload that mission and play it again and try and win the battle.
I think Final Fantasy Tactics is similar.
Yeah, without your character dying. Yeah. And so this is entirely up to what the player finds enjoyable. The people who will replay the mission again are not happy. They're not satisfied with the experience of losing a character they cared about. And maybe that just indicates that they're not so interested really in true role-playing. For people who are really interested in role-playing, they will have more satisfaction out of the fact that there are true consequences for the things that they do, and accepting that and then moving on from that. Like, so you seem to be the kind of player who is truly interested in role-playing. And for me, it's like sometimes I'm really into that and sometimes I'm not. I think there's a part of me that just is perfectionistic a bit and is like, no, I don't want to make mistakes at all.
I do that too. Yeah.
I've found myself in some games coming to what I knew was an important decision. I think The Witcher does this really well. And on The Witcher in particular, I did not allow myself to do this. But on previous games where you come to a decision and it's like, oh, I don't know what the right decision is. It's not clear. I don't know what the right... Like, they both seem to have equal amounts of pros and cons attached to them. I have no idea what I should do. I don't know what the outcome's going to be. And I just... Okay, I'll choose this one.
Nice.
You look up the answer. And then you do it. I've done that before.
Right.
And I think there's a part of me that, especially for really, really long role-playing games, you don't know what it's going to do, and you don't want to have to replay a bunch of stuff or have like go a certain amount, like 20 hours in this direction, and realize that's not really what you wanted. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this question. It just depends on who you are and what's going to give you this experience you want that satisfies you.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, maybe not from the player's perspective, but what about the game developer's perspective?
Yeah.
Right? What about the writers, the ones who crafted the story? What do they think about finishing a game minus certain characters or with everyone? Or, how as story-wise, how was this story really supposed to pan out? especially playing games for story, it's difficult. You want the optimal ending of the story, right?
Yeah.
You want it's storytelling. I mean, as much as you're participating in it, you want to be told what happens.
I just had a thought about that.
The story just sucks. It's a bad story if the wrong characters die at the wrong times. Or it's also a bad story if no one dies and everyone's fine and invincible.
I think one problem from a developer standpoint that creates this conundrum for certain people is that they'll have a true ending, a canon ending, or a good
because
ending.
There's a Mass Effect 3.
Yeah.
And those characters are all back in Mass Effect 3, right?
Yeah.
So...
They can be. If they died, they wouldn't be, but...
Oh, yeah. From Mass Effect 2?
Yeah. If they died in Mass Effect 2, they won't be in Mass Effect
3. Oh, because it was Mass Effect 1 then carrying on, that they're all back and...
Well, except for, again, characters that die. If they die in 1, they don't come back in 2.
But usually what happens is they kind of end up having kind of a diminished role in the next game anyway.
Right, because you didn't need...
To where they were super expendable.
Because they had to... They were expendable, because they could have died. So their role in 2 is... diminished.
Sometimes I feel like that kind of actually makes for worse stories just by virtue of the fact that you have to make sure that this person wasn't actually that important.
Right.
Right? Like if Frodo dies at the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring, right? You can't have that.
Right. Yeah.
So
I mean,
you
Sam
can have people who
go
can
and
die,
carry
however.
the ring himself, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know, you can go around it, but it's like that changes the story drastically.
Yeah.
It's really tough from a developer standpoint. I mean, the idea of it's really nice in that the player can feel more involved, but it does have certain consequences from a storyteller's perspective. That means you have to then do this.
This is like getting at the heart of what a video game is. The thing is that the only difference a video game has over another medium in storytelling is what we're talking about right now.
Right. Is that
player being able to influence the story. It's the only unique thing about video games to storytelling, right?
Except for choosing an adventure
but
novel.
People are so used to books and movies and thinking that way that they want to think about video games that way too.
Right.
And which is to me taking out what's so special about video games. It's like, I might as well have just watched a Let's Play of someone making all the optimal decisions.
All the right decisions.
To me, that's just the way I look at it. I look at it like, if I'm interacting, I want there to be a reason why I was the one interacting and not just watching somebody else interact. You know what I mean? Like, why would I be the one to play the game if it wasn't going to have my thumbprint on it in some way?
Right.
So that's kind of why I much more rather accept the consequences of my decisions in games, because to me, otherwise I might as well just watch someone play the game. Like, I remember I did that with one of the Call of Duties, because I used to play Call of Duty, and then Black Ops came out, and I don't think I really played that one, but I want to know what happened in the story, so I just hopped on YouTube and I just watched, because I was like, what's going to happen in the story? Because that game, it freaking doesn't matter if you're the one doing it or not.
Right.
Because there's nothing really
linear,
in that game. Yeah, they're going for the movie approach to storytelling, right? So I've done that before, but just why? Because I feel like, it doesn't matter if I play this.
Right.
It's not going to change it.
You're the reason that Nintendo is so mad about online.
Because it's not even that I wouldn't have bought
Activision
a game
or whatever.
Yeah, I wanted to know what happened, but I wouldn't have done that if it was a game along the lines of The Witcher. I wouldn't freaking go watch somebody else's playthrough of a Witcher game. Right. Because
or Skyrim or Breath of the Wild or any of that.
Yeah, because it's like, well, crap, I don't want to ruin this for when I maybe theoretically play this at some point, but if it's not possible to, then I don't care.
But this whole discussion is only possible in video games, not anywhere else.
Right.
But to go back to what I was saying about how they have like a true ending or a good ending versus a bad ending, I think that might be the wrong approach, because you conflict people that way. If they know, like people are saying, hey, make sure you do this to get the good ending,
but sometimes the real ending is chosen by the players. The writers never say anything. The game company never says anything.
It's just this is the one where no one was dead.
Yeah, this is the one where no one dies.
That's
but that could be the worst ending from a storytelling perspective.
That's true.
I'm saying,
but the community decides it's
that
the true ending.
They what they should do is not have an ending that you get all the good feels and everything works out, and you don't have any consequences. If you're going to have consequences in your game, then every ending's got to incorporate some form of loss in it.
But that means it has to be technically impossible for you to save all the characters. So they would have to build that into a game like Mass Effect.
Right.
Because I'll tell you what,
if I played
Harry Potter, none of the guys would have died.
Exactly.
Exactly. Not a single one of them would have died.
And I think that's bad for that story. That's bad for that story.
Absolutely.
You need to have consequences in the story.
Yeah.
So having this cop-out ending where, nope, everything turns out okay if you do everything.
Yeah.
If you go through and you do everyone's loyalty mission, it's like whether or not this character dies should not depend on how close my relationship is to them.
Right.
It should depend on, were they competent in the moment? Did a stray bullet hit them or not?
I know, like, things out of your control. Yeah.
Things should be out of the player's control if you're going to do a game about consequences.
Which is more linear thinking.
Yes.
Right. So,
right. Totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
The story is happening without the player influencing it to a
I mean, you could still have it very like not necessarily be linear in the sense of, like, this character's going to be dead, it's just going to happen. But, like, maybe just within the gameplay
Mass Effect
itself.
1 did that. There are moments where it's like you have to choose who's going to do fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And you basically know who you're choosing. They're probably going to die. And you can't have both these people, but you can have one or the other.
Yeah.
So that's a way to do that.
That's a way to do that. I think the way that Fire Emblem does it as well, which is you still have total control when you walk into that battle, where you place your units and who they fight.
Right. Totally.
But when that player dies, it's like, that was a mistake that I made. But not giving you the ability to walk back from that. But I feel like, nope, you made a mistake. Here's the consequence. Deal with it. Make a new team. Move on.
Right.
If you're going to do a game about consequences, and that's like a central mechanic in it, that's how you got to do it.
I think
if you want everyone to be satisfied, then just do.
Well, there's different
story.
Scales of consequences. There's consequences where people die. And there's consequences where you didn't make very much money, or there's consequences where you live in this house now. I don't know, but I feel like it's almost the difference of like if I were to put movies to like label these two like ways of thinking, it's almost like Saving Private Ryan versus Ocean's 11. You know, it's like which one? Those endings fit their stories.
Do you get to witness your brother's horrific death, or do you get to go to jail? Because you tried to rob. In either case, I feel like if that's a central part of the experience is about choice and consequence, then you can't have one version of it where you suffer no real consequences. Everything works out. Everything's good. Everything's happy. And I think that's a response to, we just want to please as many people as possible.
I think that's what Telltale does a pretty good job of.
Yeah.
Of having like really, really legitimate like moral dilemmas.
Sure.
Because it's like there's not a right answer, and it's not obvious. Like you were saying, looking stuff up for The Witcher so you can figure out what the consequences would be. Because it's not obvious, right?
Yeah. Well,
sometimes it's obvious.
To speak on that game, though, in particular, I think that did such a good job. The Witcher 3, I'm saying, did such a good job at making all the endings feel conflicted. You're not sure which one is good. And I've gone online and discussed with people, and they were like, no, that's definitely not the good ending. This is the good ending. It's like, but this person's like, no way, that's not what the character would want. And like, that's no way that's the good ending. And this is the good. And everyone could sort of like, based on how they felt about the characters, based on the decision they made, come to a different conclusion about what's the best ending.
You know what's crazy about that is, think about the ending to Inception.
Yeah.
You can have that same conversation, but even though everyone's seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's like the layers that can be worked in there. Or like, and if somebody does that to where it creates conversation, to me that's like when you've like executed a story.
Like good work. Yeah.
Like, people are still talking about it, still thinking. Like after I played BioShock Infinite and beat it for the first time.
That was pretty cool.
Of just thinking about that. Like, what the crap? Like, that wasn't good. That wasn't bad. Like I feel like, you know. Yeah. I think those kinds of things
whole game though. It's the moral dilemma thing. Yeah.
And that's another reason why I think The Witcher is so masterful. It takes a lot of things that have been done before it by games like Mass Effect, but does it in a way to where it's just more. There's a lot of gray in that world, and in the real world it's true. Nothing is black and white. No, not nothing, but most things are not just totally black and white.
Paper's white.
This is
and like in Mass Effect 2, it's like the good ending is all the people you like survive. There is nothing like that in The Witcher 3. Yeah. It's like...
You know what's weird, though? I feel like that kind of works in some ways for Mass Effect just because it's like... It feels a little more like the summer blockbuster movie genre.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like the Fast and the Furious, like... They pulled it off or whatever. Or Mission Impossible or something. I feel like it seems in that vein, at least to me.
You know what's funny? Even back, like... 20 years ago, and this is a spoiler for Final Fantasy VII if anybody really hasn't played that game here. Fast forward about a minute. But do you remember hearing about how it was possible to save Aerith and keep her from dying?
Yeah.
And I tried to do it like multiple times. I was like, oh, there's a way you can save her. If a game makes a way that you can save a character, people will do it.
Yep.
Even if that is one of the most impactful moments in all video games almost, when Aerith, dies. At least, for its time specifically. And you just didn't think that was going to happen. It wasn't a real possibility in your mind. And it happens, and it lends to the story extremely well.
Well, video games encourage hoarding, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's like character hoarding.
Characters.
Like, I just want all the characters.
Well, see, that's like, no, I guess that would be different. I was thinking Final Fantasy 6, but Final Fantasy Tactics is kind of a similar way. Yeah. But anyways, I just want to throw that out there. If there's a way to do it, people will do it. Yeah. And it's up to the writers and the game developers if they want that to even be a possibility. Because if it's even remotely possible, people will look it up online and they will do it.
Or assume that that's what was intended.
Exactly. And then they'll say it's the true ending because no one died. But the writers are like, no. It's not the true ending.
Yeah.
That was a loophole.
Guys, this has been episode 52 of the Witcher 3 is Great podcast.
It really is, though.
52 episodes of The Witcher is Great.
It's amazing.
Here's to 52 more. All right,
so
we're moving on.
Good one, Seed. Thank you. That was a great one.
Yeah, thanks, Seed Barrett.
Jarvis Mott. Who's an NPC in any game you wish was playable? For me, it was hands down goes to Sheik from Ocarina of Time, just to see what you do in between helping Link.
Yes. And I have heard that Aonuma's been tossing around the idea of possibly doing a Sheik spinoff at some point.
They should make like Dirge of Service.
Absolutely do it. People get really upset because there isn't a Dirge of Service. People get upset because there's not like a female lead in a Zelda game, and obviously Miyamoto wants to keep things the way they are, but it would be so like just make a game about Sheik then, just make a game about Sheik. That would be so cool.
I still feel
practicing musical instruments.
There you go, just getting really good at that heart.
I still really feel that one way to improve upon Zelda in a really, really profound way would be to have 2-player. Link and Zelda, and they work together to solve puzzles. Puzzle solving that
you're talking Four Swords.
Me and you,
Triforce Heroes.
Me and someone online, or me and someone sitting next to me, are working together at a puzzle.
That is
Four Swords is kind of that way, right?
Four Swords got that way a bit.
But I think a game that is specifically Link and Zelda together, which I was kind of hoping they would at least have some sections where she was an NPC in Breath of the Wild.
I kind of felt,
because I saw some of those scenes that all ended up being memories.
I know,
but I thought this would be the main game.
Yeah.
Well, like in Twilight Princess, not to spoil the end of Twilight Princess, but what happens in Twilight Princess in that where there's some of that kind of interaction.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
And like, holy crap. At least at the end of the Wind Waker as well, where it's like, all right, here she comes along with the bow and arrow, and you've got to like position things a certain way, and that's. Yeah. Anyways,
I really feel that making Zelda herself a playable character in a Zelda game is just, to me, an obvious next step. But who knows what they'll do?
Ooh, do you remember? I think this is also Wind Waker. The little like mind control spell you could do.
Yeah.
And then you can become the character and run around. Something like that.
There are a lot of. I mean, you could still have it be single player and kind of have it work a little bit like Uncharted, for instance, where the NPC sort of like knows what to do. If you go into the right direction, you press the right thing, the script, then it'll do what it's supposed to do. But simultaneously have it to where you can have someone else play with you as that character and do
that would be pretty cool.
Thing. I really just feel like Zelda should do that. I wish they would. They probably never will.
DLC November, dude.
What if there's hope? What if? So you're saying, what if Zelda was a girl?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Imagine a game. Imagine a Zelda game where Zelda was a girl.
There you
go. I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
I know there's characters I thought about this before. Like I want to go see what they did when they weren't interacting with you in the game. But I can't think of anything right now.
I know technically in like an RPG sense, well, you kind of go with him throughout the whole time. But in Mario RPG, there's the character Geno.
Dude, I was thinking
Geno's cool, and you control him because you get to attack as him.
Yeah.
But you're really Mario going around. But when I think about it, it's like, oh, he went into the doll, and you're really with him 100% of the time, except for the very first like day, until the end, and then he leaves the doll. So it's like, you were there the whole time, but still, that character's way too cool. I want a game with just Gino.
Gino needs to be in Smash.
He does. He really does. Characters. Well, every time they have like a vote for like who would you like to see in Smash, I always put Gino.
PC, any game you wish made playable? Yeah, that's tough. I mean, Sheik would be a really, really cool one. I keep thinking of like Zelda characters, so I'm trying to break out of just Zelda right now. In my head.
It's hard for me to think because I was trying to think about this a little bit before we started about characters, but really Zelda is the only one I can think of. Like, Sheik is the same answer, really, but
it is Zelda. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, generally speaking, it doesn't really bother me when there's a cool NPC character. And my first thought is not like, oh, I want to be that guy. It's like, no, that guy's a really cool character or whatever.
Right.
I don't really have that sort of natural sense of where, like, I wish I could control that person.
That's why I'm just trying to think of, like, people where you heard about them doing something, you didn't get to witness it.
Yeah, and you didn't get to be there. Yeah. So it's like, Final Fantasy 15 is doing that right now. That's where it's like, oh, I was here doing that, and I was here doing that, and it's like, oh, I wish I could have seen that. Here's $5, you can do it. But that's just a wrong way of doing it, I feel. I think that... well, not necessarily the wrong way, not in every circumstance. I do think that it's a decent price for
it's a good price.
But considering that game's development and everything around just that specific game, that could have been in the game.
This isn't like a game, and this probably doesn't even work really for this question, but I've always wanted to play as Aragorn or as Strider cruising around kind of Middle Earth. Like when he was hunting for Gollum or kind of anything leading up to that, I always thought it'd be cool. And there are Lord of the Rings video games.
They aren't quite
but he is playable in a lot of them, so I don't know.
It's tough to say. Outside of Zelda, I can't really think of any other character that I've just been like,
Tingle, dude. Really no, you do get to play as Tingle in Rupee Land.
You can in a certain game.
His DS game.
Anyone else? See, but I play mostly RPGs, and mostly in RPGs you can play there.
You kind of control.
It's a party-based thing, so you play as all the characters.
I want to play.
Oh no! Beatrix in Final Fantasy.
Oh, dude, nice.
Beatrix in Final Fantasy IX. Yeah. She should have become part of the main party at some point.
Yeah.
That's probably my first choice. No, Zelda's my first choice, but that's second choice.
Beatrix has a sweet theme, by the way.
I want to play as Octolings in Splatoon. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Can't think of anything else, though.
That's
a good one, Jarvis Mott. Of Apple fame, by chance? You relate to the Mott's Apples family? You're going to inherit the fortune. You know where the gold's at?
Jarvis. All right.
Thank you.
Jermaine.
Jamant says, do you guys like to be playing several games at a time, as in actively playing more than one game over a certain period of time? If so, why? And in that case, do you play different kinds of games?
There's actually kind of more to this. I didn't copy the whole thing over because it was pretty long.
I would assume it's more like, do you play multiple story-oriented games at once? Because I always have a multiplayer online game I'm playing, and then the story linear type game that I'm kind of that I do when I feel like that, and when I don't, I just mind-numbingly do 5-minute matches.
Yeah,
on Splatoon.
You just reminded me of the second part of what he said. So he said, kind of like what Lana was saying in the Persona review, about how Breath of the Wild and Persona had a very different sort of like approach and feel to progression through it, and how it's like every once in a while you just wanted to get more into that linear thing, so you play Persona, and then sometimes you're more into that. So that to answer what you were asking, that's kind of the context for the question.
I do it, but I usually don't play too far past the first few hours of a game before I kind of decide which one I really want. Yeah. I really want to play. I was playing Suikoden and Star Ocean at the same time, and I went with Star Ocean, although I really want to play Suikoden as well. But, yeah. Yeah,
for me, it's like, I think I want to be able to play like 4 or 5 games at once because I have dozens and dozens of games I want to play at any given time. It's like, I really want to play that. I really want to play that. I really want to play that. But in practice, what happens is when I finally get myself to sit down and play something, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to play this for 1 hour. And then I'll move on to that one. And I'll play that for 1 hour. And then I'll play this one for 1 hour. And so I'll have 3 hours and I'll play 3 different games and like be making my way through them. Yeah. But in practice what happens is I play the first game for 5 hours.
Right, whichever one sucks you in, that's the one you're playing.
And it's because
and screw the others, yeah.
The games I play are very story, like world, like focused. And so like to really like get get the feel for them, you got to play them for like longer periods of time at once. I can't just dive into Horizon Zero Dawn for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? You can't do that. And even an hour, I feel, is not enough for you to feel like you accomplished something. So in those kinds of games, you get in, it's like, I'm going to do this, and then I'd really like to do that, that, and that. But doing all of that takes a long time. And so I never can do it. I always end up just playing one game. Like, I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn, and I was really making my way through it, and then the Final Fantasy 12 live stream thing came up, and all my attention went to Final Fantasy 12 for the whole month. Like, I couldn't really play Horizon because I was so invested in 12. So that's just kind of how it ends up being for me.
I have a hard time if I let more than a couple days go by in like a story-driven game. I come back in and I have to like backtrack a little bit or remind myself. Yeah. And if I let like a week or two go by, when I pick it back up, I'm like super disincentivized to keep playing because I'm like, crap. I really have to go back. Yeah. So I appreciate games that do things to try and accommodate for people that are maybe in that.
I think Breath of the Wild is one of those where when you get into the game, it's not so much like what was I doing. It's like, well, you can just find something to do. Yeah, now, like, who cares where you were going? You can kind of go and do anything and find stuff, like, anywhere. And maybe that's part of why playing that game and Persona at the same time was more doable than it maybe otherwise would have been.
That's true, actually. It is a good example of, like, what's going on right now. Because of, like, Breath of the Wild and Persona and a few other games, I kind of took a hiatus from playing Trails in the Sky, first chapter, and then I started playing it again like a couple days ago, and they have a pretty good log of like events.
That's cool.
So I'll like go way back in the log and just start reading until it jogs my memory. Like, oh, that's right. Okay.
I like games that do that.
Oh, I can't believe that happened, and then I feel like I'm back into it, and I can pick it up again because like for right now I'm playing Monster Hunter Generations. I'm playing Animal Crossing is an easy game to play when you got other games going. I'm playing. I'm always playing Splatoon, and right now I'm playing some Mario Kart, but also playing. I mentioned Trails in the Sky, Breath of the Wild. That's mostly it right now, but that's a lot of fishing. And I'm always playing Civilization 5 or 6 at some point. But I cycle though. It's not like I play all those any given day. It's like I'll play a game an hour a day or something, and it's one of those. But most of those are games it doesn't matter if you haven't played them in like a month. You know, you're right. No, I don't get back in Civ 6 and be like, well, what was England doing again? You know, like it's like not that kind of game. It's just hard for story-driven games. Usually I think so. Usually like one story-driven game at a time.
A log does help that out a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like that saved my butt in Trails. Like, honestly, it had been a month since I had played it last, and I was like, ooh, I remember the town I'm in. Okay, what happened? And all I could remember immediately was, like, stuff that had actually happened quite a while ago. And then so I went in their logbook. And you can do that for, like, basically the whole game.
That's
you could
cool.
read,
That's
like,
cool.
almost, it's...
You should just upload that online.
And then no one will have to play it.
No one will have to play the game. They know what happens.
They can just
Yeah, I really appreciate when games do logbooks so that you can remember what you were doing. That's really
like Skyrim, where you would do a quest and then like kind of get sidetracked or something, and then come back and you're still in the middle of another quest, and it was like they would let you know.
Yeah, a lot of the quests in Breath of the Wild kind of do that. You can just go back to a shrine quest or a side quest, and just you can kind of see what had been happening up to that point. So yeah, long answer, but the short of it is it's hard. It's hard to play multiple games at once.
Okay, Big Cow Productions. Have you had a time where you played a game, saw a movie, read a book, you initially hated, but you came back later and enjoyed it for the same reasons that it caused you to initially dislike it? Yes. Final Fantasy V is the first one that jumps out to me. Because I played... Okay, my experience with Final Fantasy is really interesting because I started with 7, and then I dipped into 6 after that. And then I think I played, like... 4? I believe it was 4. So I played like 3 really story-focused, heavy Final Fantasy games in a row. And I was like, that's what Final Fantasy is. And I believe 10 was actually one to play after that. So all of these were like very, very story-driven ones. Yeah. And I just assumed that's what Final Fantasy is. So I looked at
Final Fantasy Disease.
I had Final Fantasy Disease.
True.
And I looked at the case for Final Fantasy V with the dragon and stuff, and I was like, oh man, this looks cool. this is going to be like Final Fantasy VI, right? It's not. It's just not. It's a very different tone. It's a very different kind of story. A lot of silliness, a lot of humor. I think of all the Final Fantasy games, it's probably the one that like makes humor sort of like a really high priority. I mean, all of them have funny moments, and certain characters like Kina in Final Fantasy 9. 9 has a lot of lighthearted moments in it too.
It does.
I hadn't played that one when I played 5. But 5 is just like almost. I guess it depends on which translation you play.
Yeah, because at the time it was just the fan translation.
That's right.
The fan translation is much more straightforward. It's a lot more serious. And the version I played first, which was the Game Boy Advance version, is all over the place. It's just like lots of silly stuff in it. And I remember playing that, and I was like, man, I do not like this game. I just don't like it. I was expecting something different. That was my first problem. But additionally to that, it's kind of a silly game in general. And I was looking for something gripping and more like the other Final Fantasy games I'd played.
Yeah.
So I reviewed that game, and I did not like it. And I told people I did not like it.
That was your mistake.
And no, it wasn't a mistake. It was actually really cool because what happened the first wave of reactionary comments came through, but I had a lot of people reach out to me in personal messages when those were still viable on YouTube, and I would still get notified when they happened. By the way, if you try to send us a personal message on YouTube, we probably won't see that because it does not tell us it happened. The bell does not notify us at all.
And it's kind of hard to get to that inbox.
Yeah.
Too. You got to go through a few different things.
But back when that existed and was a viable thing to do, a lot of people would send me like long reasons of their experience with it and how in their culture this story much more represented the fables and the myths that came from their countries and stuff like that, and like this is why I really enjoyed it. It reminded me of being a kid and having my mother read these stories to me, and I was like, you know what, that's actually kind of cool. Let me play that game again. I played it again with that mindset, and I love how silly the game is. I really do. I think it has a really nice sense of humor to it. And you can kind of tailor, depending on which version you choose to play, how much or how little of that you have. And so that's kind of nice, too, that there are different translations. The PlayStation translation, I believe, is pretty bad. I don't remember that one too well, but I remember people complaining about that version. But the fan translation is really good, and then the Game Boy Advance translation is really good. And anyways,
so Game Boy Advance one's more lighthearted.
Way sillier in that version. Like they where they go into trying to like write out really weird accents. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Like stuff like that. They do that a bit in 9 with the dwarves. They had like that real heavy Irish accent. And so they try to like spell it out phonetically to anyways, they do a lot of that. They do a lot of that in 5. On the Game Boy Advance. But anyways, that's one game in particular that I enjoyed for the reasons I disliked it the first time around.
Now, this that's very interesting. The thing you brought up about the cultures and about the mythos and like some of the stories that different cultures have. We've had a question on the podcast like months ago saying, why are most RPGs patterned after either like Scandinavian Norse mythology or like Greek, sometimes Roman, but usually they kind of stick to this area, right? And there's so much other stuff going on, but you've got like the I don't know how much I should trust the Disney movie Moana for Polynesian mythology. So if you guys just tell me if I'm wrong, but the demigod who The Rock plays, who's just wonderful. Maui, how he like pulled up islands from the ground, and that's where a lot of these islands kind of came from, and that kind of stuff. That Maui was known as a bit of a prankster, and he was kind of a joker, and he would mess with people, right? And that's part of his, he was mischievous, and that's part of his mythology. So those stories have a harder time resonating with people who are into this like super serious, the North mythos of Valhalla and the glories of battle.
The Vikings, like
maybe that explains part of
personalities came into their lore in the same way that the Polynesians' personalities came into theirs.
Exactly. And you would think, I think, and maybe because of your initial negative reaction to that might be why most companies choose to go with that type of lore, because they're like, oh, this is just it's more serious, you know, it's more intense, or I don't want to say realistic because it's
stakes feel higher maybe,
but exactly, it just feels a little bit different in that way, and maybe that can answer that question.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Disney, I mean, it's stuff people are generally already passingly familiar with. Yeah. So when you use a word or something it's going to evoke certain imagery and do half of the footwork for you already. So you don't have to do a bunch of lore building when you just say, like, this is Shiva, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I played a few Final Ice games.
Freak! Exactly. I know that's okay. You know how serious that is.
Yeah,
totally,
so
totally. Yeah, that's a good point.
It carries something with it that helps. I think it can be used as a tool. I feel like. For me, when I think about this, the first thing that comes to my mind is the Pixar movie Up. First time I saw it, I did not like it. It was the first Pixar movie that had blood in it, for one, and I was like kind of weirded out, a little bit weirded out by it. Yeah, at the very beginning, the dude gets hit on the head with the walker, and it's like, and he's cut and he's bleeding. Like, what the heck?
Oh, nice.
And I was just like, the story was so weird. It was just so all over the place. And I saw it in theaters when it came out. It was the first 3D movie I ever saw in theaters.
Oh, okay.
So that may have
it was like 2009, right? Huh?
Yeah, but it was only like 1 or 2 years later when I started learning more about filmmaking and editing and art direction,
storytelling,
and
all that,
and shot composition. And all of a sudden realizing, like, holy crap, like, this movie's nailing it on so many levels, and it's I think one of the best Pixar movies now, in my opinion. But specifically because it tackles things that people generally stray away from, especially in a Pixar film. For example, like the protagonist talking about Final Fantasy 12. How they felt like they needed to put a young buck in there, right? Because the kids aren't going to identify.
Kid, yeah.
Up is about a freaking crotchety old dude. Like, talk about the least relatable character type in the entire world.
To most people.
To most
people,
yeah. And I feel like they just freaking they nail it, right? At the time though, I was like, what is this? Was this old man and he's just mean to everybody? And and when I first saw it, I was just like, I didn't like it for a lot of the same reasons. I felt like it was too serious. I felt like it was almost too sad. They start you off with a big old kick in the freaking nuts, at the beginning of the movie. It's just like, oh my gosh. But I think Pete Docter's my favorite Pixar director. And I think he takes the biggest risks, to be honest. Monsters, Inc. to me is one of the most original Pixar ideas.
Right.
I think that Up is way up there on original ideas, and I think that Inside Out is freaking incredible. I think he's a great director. So that's one where I feel like I didn't like him because of how heavy the themes were and how unrelatable I felt the characters were at the time. But now I really appreciate that because you start to see that you get one of the same 4 or 5 types of characters as a protagonist in most, especially in video games, most pieces of media. It's basically the same. I don't want to call it a bro, but it's usually a male character who's fairly built and competent and has some kind of military proficiency or whatever. And, it just tends to be what you get in video games. So it's really refreshing to see. I would love to see a Final Fantasy game where the protagonist was an old grumpy man. You know what I mean? Take a freaking risk, right?
Totally.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they kind of did that in Nier, which is weird because the Japanese version you played like a young.
They flipped it around,
male, and then in the American version they made him like an old guy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That is funny.
Yeah. I just feel like I appreciate risk taking a little more now than I used to. I used to go in and it was like, I want this thing. I want what I want. And a lot of people are just. There's nothing wrong with that, because especially if you're paying for a movie. I used to have the mentality I'm paying for this. I better come out of this yes, And you go and see some movies and they don't give you that. They give you the oh man, the world kind of sucks. And when I was younger, I didn't appreciate that as much. I was like, fetch you, man. I just wanted to have a good time. Now I'm contemplating the meaning of life.
Oh, how terrible! Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. So the one for me to answer this question would have to be Kingdom Hearts. When I first played that game, it was hard for me. I didn't love it. There was a lot wrong with it. But the more that I've learned about it and the more I've tried to figure things out and just realizing how attached I was to that first game that drove me to go on and play the others, that really I don't know. It's created this like connection. Like I used to not like Kingdom Hearts because of the story, and in a lot of ways, I'm only interested in playing Kingdom Hearts 3 because of the story. Mm-hmm. I'm not looking forward to Kingdom Hearts 3 because of the battle system or anything else. It's because what the fetch happens next, and that like is so not how I was when I first played Kingdom Hearts. I was like, I don't freaking care about this story at first, and it's funny because, and I'm not going to say it's this, you know, masterpiece of Nomura's storytelling, because he has made a few mistakes, and those mistakes, when you're getting this deep into stuff, really kind of come back to bite you pretty hard, right? And not just like Mickey's shirt was off in the first game and his shirt's on in the second game or whatever happens, or Birth by Sleep. It's not just stuff like that. It's like, you know, it's just all sorts of stuff. So, and he's caused problems there, but at the same time, you know, like Landon was saying, he's taken a risk. He's taken a pretty massive risk, and it has paid off extremely well. In like, he took something that could have, and possibly should have been really shallow, which is, hey, let's tell the Disney movie stories again, but in a video game. And he turned it into something that's basically its own IP, independent from the Disney movies. It's like got a depth to the story that just, you know, I don't know, like, I don't know what Disney was expecting, but I don't think it was this. Yeah. And, you know, Kingdom Hearts has become, you know, one of my favorite, like, franchises of video games, and it is so complicated, but that's why I'm enveloped in it. That's why I'm engrossed in it. And that's got to be my answer for that one.
It's a good answer.
Same reason I hated it. That's why I like it.
Nice.
And want more.
All right, guys.
Oh, Big Cat Productions. That was a great one, man. Thank you very much.
That is it for this week's podcast.
Yes.
If you're listening audio only, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Polls, PLZ.
Dark Pixel Gaming. That's where you can find us for gaming analysis. And if you'd like to see, we actually have a new video coming to the filmmaking channel.
In a couple of weeks, probably.
Yeah, we're working on something right now. So if you'd like to check out our filmmaking channel and our our visual effects and stuff like that, look us up at Dark Pixel and please subscribe.
That's right.
We will see you guys again on Friday for the live stream. Actually, wondering about what we should play, because last week we probably should have played Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Well, there is the Prey demo out, and that's
Prey
something
comes out on Friday.
Oh shoot!
I think it does come out on Friday.
Dude, we could.
Should we play Prey?
I have it written, or we wrote it as May 5th. I don't know if it's still May 5th. We keep
We'll
writing
look into that. We'll let you guys know.
Should we play Prey on Friday? That'd be sweet.
Prey, I mean, looks
pretty
really
cool.
Or Outlast too. That came out recently as well.
Or Outlast. Or Mario Kart 8. I don't know.
Or Mario Kart 8. Anyways, I think it'll be
we
a
also
new
have
game.
Dragon Quest Heroes 2, so.
I think we'll play a new release.
Yeah.
Somewhere, something like that on Friday. Anyways, we'll let you know what it is.
Cool, guys.
Yep.
Have a nice day.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for watching. Peace out.